May the words of my mouth and the meditation of all of our hearts, may they be acceptable and may they be pleasing in thy sight, O Lord, you who are our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. Great story I came across the other day. A woman was leaning over the victim of a street accident, and the crowd was looking on. Suddenly, she was roughly pushed aside by a man who said, "Step back, please. I know how to do first aid." And the woman looked on for a few minutes while the man got busy with the victim. And then she calmly said to the man, when you come to the part where you have to send for the doctor, I'm already here. We make assumptions. Even in this day and age, we make assumptions as to who is helpful and who has resources and who can give better. And yet, this isn't a new phenomenon. We still, even in this day, run into the issues where we make decisions and assumptions based off of all kinds of things. But even in Jesus' day and age, there's this assumption about women that Luke decides that he is going to take head on. And he does this throughout the whole gospel, does he not? Right in the very beginning with the birth narrative, who are the ones who speak the praises of God? Women, and who are the ones that are actually shut up divinely by the angels? Men. Right, so Luke is trying to make a point throughout his whole gospel as to the good news of Jesus Christ. The gospel, the kingdom of God, sees that there is no distinction between Jew, Gentile, slave, free, male, female. We have the two stories here that make very salient points about reducing or removing our assumptions about who's in, who's out, and who can give. Who can give? We're going to talk this morning about gifts. We've talked about prayers and presence. We're going to talk now about gifts, and next week will be service and witness. These 5 key lessons that we can receive from our master teacher, Jesus Christ, as we move into this idea of back to school. It's that season. So how many of you think that I'm going to preach a sermon about stewardship this morning? Because it's all about gifts, right? Okay, I'm glad that only one person. I'm glad you guys are getting on board with the fact that I'm not typically going to do what we think we're going to do. So, gifts. I want to talk a little bit more about gifts in a different sort of way this morning. We'll talk about stewardship later on as the season and as we get towards the end of the year. We'll talk about sharing in those sorts of ways. But this morning, I want to talk about gifts in a different sort of way for you so that it's relevant for your lives in this week ahead. Talk about 3 salient points that come out of these stories. This woman comes to Jesus and she is moved to give. She's moved to give. So the other day I brought flowers home to Megan. And when I brought those flowers home to Megan, she looked at me and she was just overjoyed with the fact that I was showing her love and appreciation. She's like, "Thank you so much." And I said, "Oh, that's okay. That's what I'm supposed to do." I'm obligated because we have this contract between one another. We have this lifelong contract is that I'm supposed to make sure that you are pleased and happy and satisfied with me, and therefore I have it on my calendar that every 6 weeks I'm to provide you flowers that show you that I love and appreciate you. No, it's not true. Of course it's not. How many of you watched Big Bang Theory? Okay, Big Bang Theory. What does Sheldon do when he sees that somebody's in distress? Protocol says that you're supposed to provide a hot beverage. Exactly. Does Sheldon feel anything for these people? No, but he knows that protocol is that you provide a hot beverage to soothe and comfort this person, right? It would be the same thing as if me going to Megan with flowers and I just simply say, well, I'm obligated to give these to you. We have a contract, right?
Relationship agreement?
Right, exactly, the relationship agreement. Right, exactly. We have a roommate agreement with one another that this is how this is supposed to... Does that provide any warmth? Any comfort? Does that help the relationship at all? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And this woman is showing this table of religious professionals that Jesus is with what giving is really supposed to be all about. She gives because she is feeling something. She's moved to do something for Jesus. Now, we don't know exactly what it is that's transpired prior between Jesus and this woman. We just know that she shows up and she is so moved that she is crying so much that she has to sop it up with her hair. She's moved. Which makes me think, when was the last time that I was moved like that? You know, when was the last time that I was moved so much by what God has done for me that I'm just sobbing enough that I would have to use somebody else's hair to dry all of it up, right? But that's where this woman is at. Now, before we start thinking that this is a pretty sight, this is not a pretty sight, right? We're talking about a woman who is crying so much that she's crying on somebody who has been walking probably miles that day in sandals or bare feet. So his feet are just caked. They're just covered with dirt. And now she's made mud, right? And now what she's going to do is she's going to use her hair to soak up all the mud from her tears and the dirt. This is not a pretty sight, but it's beautiful. Is it not? It's beautiful. This woman is moved to give this. She gave what she felt. She gives as a sign of gratitude. And that makes me pause and think, when was the last time that I gave to someone out of gratitude, out of thankfulness, versus, oh, their birthday's coming up. Oh, anniversary's coming up. Oh, that's the season for giving such and such. She gave out of gratitude. She shows up uninvited. She barges into this person's house. She doesn't care. And she's there in front of him, washing his feet with her tears and her hair. She gave out of gratitude. Once upon a time, God gave a party for all of the virtues. Patience, peace, gentleness, kindness. They were all there. They were all there, great and small, humble and heroic. They gathered together in a splendidly decorated hall in heaven, and God is bringing them all together. Most of them were already acquainted with one another. Some even closely related, and then God caught out of the corner of God's eye, spotted two fair virtues who seemed not to know each other at all. They were somewhat ill at ease with one another. And so God took one by the hand and the other by the hand and brought them together. And he introduces them and says, charity, meet gratitude. Gratitude, meet charity. And God turns God's back and starts to walk away. And no sooner had he turned and walked away that they were soon parted from one another. And so the story goes that even God cannot bring gratitude and charity together. You want me to dumb that down for a few minutes as to what that means? I say this so often at home. No good deed goes unpunished. a chuckle out of that. Come on, think about that. No good deed goes unpunished. Have you ever done something and you thought that what you were going to get was gratitude, and what you got was, seriously, that's the best you can do? Or you do something and it's like, yeah, but really what I wanted you to do was or look at what I've done. And people are like, yeah, not feeling it. Been there? Good works and gratitude oftentimes aren't linked up with each other. And so here's this woman who's coming in and offering out this great act of humility, submission, of just overflowing love for what Jesus has done for her. She's down on her literally down on her hands and her knees, washing his feet. Her hair getting caked with mud in the midst of all of this. And everybody is watching her do this. And what does Jesus do? He doesn't say, hey, come on, get up. They're looking at you. They're staring at us. Oh my gosh, what are we going to do about this? No, Jesus doesn't do that. He revels in it. He enjoys it. He's sharing in this gift with her. He's allowing her to do this because he knows that her heart is in this, and his heart joins her heart in the midst of it. What happens is that the giving becomes sharing. They're sharing this. They're sharing this experience with one another. And he knows exactly where her heart is in all of this. He knows that what she is so grateful for is this sense that he does not judge her, that he's not condemning her, that he does not see her as the sinner that everybody has labeled her to be. And when you think about that, when you really seriously think about the fact that the creator of the universe that has come in flesh and blood is sitting there, and he doesn't even have to say it, you can see it in his eyes. I don't judge you. I love you. I don't think of you as a sinner like everybody else does. I see you as the creation God created, who God meant you to be. And I love you exactly the way that you are, and that if you were to never ever change, that's okay with me, because I love you just exactly the way that you are. I'm not in this to change you. I'm in this to love you. Think about that for a second. Think about that. God's not in this to change you. God's not in this to change me. Relationships that are built on somebody going in with the agenda to change you, those are not healthy relationships, right? We've seen those. We've been in those kinds of relationships. That's manipulation. God isn't in it to change you, but God knows that change will probably happen, as all good relationships do, right? As all good relationships do, change happens. And God is patient. And God is loving, and God is kind, and God is merciful, and God starts each new day with, all right, what are we going to do today? I have new mercies for you. And he had new mercies for this woman that's at his feet. And one of the other things that happens out of this is that there is this sharing, that Jesus then takes this offering, this gift, and then he gives back to her and says what he already feels, and she already knows how he feels, is you are forgiven. Your sins are forgiven. You are not a sinner. You are not what people think you are. And even when the others are like, Jesus is like, you're not getting it. Her faith has saved her. She believes in God. She believes that the creator of the universe loves her for who she is. She's getting it. How about you guys get on board too? So this is what I would like for you to join me in this week, if you want to. So the first week we talked about adding into our daily routine, help, thanks, wow. These 3 simple prayers, help, thanks, wow. And then last week we talked about giving ourselves a time out. So let's add this in. Again, keeping this kind of simple. One of the beautiful things that this woman does is that she is premeditated in her giving. She's really thought out this giving thing. She's thought out exactly how she's going to do this. Because nobody walks around with an alabaster jar of perfume under the crook of their arm, right? Right? Nobody does that. I can guarantee you, no one in the first century walked around with an alabaster jar of perfume on a regular basis. It's like, oh, I got my wallet, I got my keys, okay. Oh, wait a minute, I forgot my alabaster jar of perfume, right? No, she had to think about this. She was mindful about how she was going to give a gift to this teacher, Jesus Christ. So what I would like for you to do this week is to do some premeditated giving. One person. Come up with one person this week and think about, be mindful, prayerful about what you could do in a creative, surprising, beautiful, yet simple. And oftentimes, the simpler the gift, the more thought has happened in that. Right? Think of someone. Be prayerful about it. Ask God, give me some guidance, give me some discernment as to what gift I can give to this person. And I guarantee you, that is going to make a huge difference in that person's life by you giving them that simple, premeditated, thoughtful gift. I'm not saying this is going to be this huge thing. Just keep it simple. Keep it small, but think about it. Be premeditated about it. Do you get what I'm saying here? That's your homework for this week. May they see your thoughtfulness in it. May they see your mindfulness, the fact that you thought this through and you're offering it out in appreciation, in gratitude for what they've done for you. And may God be seen in the midst of that giving, that sharing that'll happen between you and that other person in this week. May God be glorified in our actions this week. May it be so.